Hello, happy Tuesday. Happy Wednesday, I should say. Welcome back to another episode of The Practice. This show is an unrehearsed look into my workflow. I'm Stuart. I'm a 3D artist, illustrator, designer, and your pal, and I'm excited to have you back for another episode of this week. As you can probably tell, we are a little bit belated here. Had some travel going on this week, and unfortunately was out of pocket on Tuesday. Wanted to make it up for you, and so here we are. As you can tell by this Google image search reference imagery that I have pulled up here, we're going to get going on an old school Game Boy, so a bit of hard surface modeling today. So let's dive right in. As always, get in the chat, ask questions, say what's up, let me know what you think. Keep this bad boy moving. So really simple to start with, just kind of a rectangle here. I think what I'll do to keep things flexible is probably just start with a beveled former. That way we can continue to add and modify things. We might take a few liberties to sort of simplify things here, but let's block out kind of the basic shapes. So I use a bool here to punch out some of the individual elements here and then kind of add them back in, because what's nice is we'll have this kind of reveal here around the edges of the Game Boy. And I want to see all that. Let's see. If I wanted to get really precise, what I could do is, find a head-on shot of this like this here. Just kind of trace it out. Then import those from Illustrator or something like that. But I think I'm just going to eyeball it a little bit today. It's actually a really great head-on view to look at some of the details here. This guy's a little too thick. So what else do we have? Got a couple of buttons. Actually, I should probably use for these. Use these to punch out the space. It looks like I should probably use a capsule for the actual buttons themselves, so you can have that nice rounding on top of them. Let's try. We might wind up really pushing this boolean object to the limits here. Let's see what we can get away with. I'm using another boolean to try and connect these two. So make this happen. There we go. Not super clean geometry, though. That's all right. I'm going to squash this guy just a little bit because the curve is really rather subtle and gentle, this area around the buttons. I'm also seeing that it's not quite lined up here. That's a little better. Kind of even it out. Go. Got a bool inside of a bool. All good. Might as well do a similar thing for the direction pad here. I think I can do with just a very simple sphere. And then we'll actually go in there and add the buttons back in. Looks like there might be some issues with this chat client. I'm not loving this chat client lately. Let me know if it's working for you. If you're out there, say what's up. In any case, let's see. Yo. Oh there, thank you. So it does work. tiny little buttons down here. It looks like actually these guys are kind of at the wrong angle, so I'm going to adjust that down to a very shallow angle, actually. There we go. The easiest thing to do, well, let's angle these up appropriately. These guys, I think the easy thing to do is just going to be to copy and paste them. Just make them a little bit smaller. We'll have our start and select buttons. Let's kind of nestle them in there. Use the polygon count a little bit. That'll do us all right. This guy looks a little too big, actually. I'm just going to squish him down. We'll squish-roo, so it's a pretty shallow indentation there. Which is good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of these button indentations, hold Option as I add a capsule, nope, not a capsule, a oil tank, wherever that guy is. And that's just so I can use them for the position. I'm going to pull them out of that hierarchy because I don't need them in there. But now we've got a button that we can work with. I'm going to reduce the polygon count on this guy as well. We don't need those height segments. So the reason I added those indentations is going to give us much more realistic shadowing around the edge here. As you can see in the Game Boy, the button doesn't actually intersect the surface. It has a little shadow gap reveal there. I'm going to try and keep that intact. I'm going to copy this and paste this. And I'm going to look up the just going to copy and paste the coordinates here. Copy, paste. The problem is, I need to add this to the hierarchy, then paste, and pull it out. Nice. That's pretty good, I think. But the proportions definitely look off here for now. Let's see what we're dealing with. I think we need to go a little bit larger on these guys. And sort of scoot him off towards the edge there, because it's really quite close to the edge. This guy might occupy more space than we're giving him credit for. Let's make that a little larger. Also add some rounding. It actually does have some rounding on its corners, so let's get involved in that. A little better. And something that's also throwing us off here is these guys might be too close to the bottom. Select. Scoop that up. That and that. These two, scoop them up as well. Duplicate this guy. This is going to be a tricky one. We're going to kind of do it by eye. Fill it there. We want to angle this guy off just a little bit. Kind of trim that corner off using a boolean. Take some sort of trial and error here to get this positioning right. There's also some really complicated compound curves that are happening here. What do you think? Not so bad. I'm trying to go up the size of this bevel. So 6 of these slots. I'm going to use a capsule for those as well. But really, like I said, we're pushing this Boolean object to the max. So let's try this. I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to add him to another Boolean. I want to stick these guys together before I punch them out of the main body of the Game Boy. You know, typically you think of Booleans as things that remove one object from the other, but they can also stick objects together, and you don't want overlapping objects in your Boolean as you're removing things from one another, as you're subtracting one volume from another. So what we do is we use a Boolean here to, you know, sort of stick two objects together or several objects together so that we can then use those as a single quote-unquote object to remove it from the main body. If that makes sense. Hopefully it does. Alright, let's try union B, body, create single object. Let's see if we can position this. Now you'll see, because I'm using Boolean to stick these two objects together, it actually behaves pretty nicely when nested inside of another Boolean. That makes sense. Seems the angle isn't quite right here. Let's see. Kind of tricky. Kind of tricky. I'm actually going to pull it out. And zero out some of these angles here. These guys seem to be kind of head on. also do is make them a bit deeper. So I'm going to cheat and just in the coordinates. Oops, just kind of stretch this capsule. Oh, you know what? That doesn't work because it's inside of a cloner. I need to do that at the cloner level. So I'm going to grab that guy. I'm going to go to transform. Like that. Just to sort of make him a little deeper. A bit closer together than that. Let's tighten those up. It's probably a little too tight. Scale them down. See if we can't get this thing positioned right. This might be one of the more complicated inside boolean setups I've ever made. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Okay, so we've got 6 of those guys going. Now make this a bunch deeper too. Just so we get a nice deep shadow in there. Alright. It's relatively centered. So let's take a look. We also have this set of details here and this off and on. I might omit this off and on button and these headphone buttons here. Let's make this direction pad now. Let's see. Make a new file real quick. Make some rectangles. Like that. We'll add a little rounding to them. What I really like that you can do is you can grab these both, go to your spline object, your spline menu, do spline union. Bam. I have these guys as a single group. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to go back to this other file, paste it in, and now we've got a backup version of that should we need it. Just trying to stay flexible. I'm also going to see here. Add this to this hierarchy, copy this location, paste it on here. So now we got a dead center, and we'll pull it back out. Rotate it 180 degrees. Really, that should be 90 degrees, 0 degrees. Now we're outside of that hierarchy, and turn this back to 1. I apparently copied some scaling information from that copy-paste function command that I did. Now let's extrude this bad boy. Some depth on it. And I don't know. What do you think? That seems a little bit small somehow. It does. We can grab that and this sphere. Scale them up a little bit. Now this sphere is far too deep. Let's adjust that and make this indentation far shallower. Anyone out there play with these types of Game Boys when they were young? I had one of these. I mean, I grew up in the 90s, so kind of an old man now. Let's try one more of these boolean unions. So, not extrude. Bool. We'll add this in here. It's going to be confused at first. We're going to go object A, union B. So create single objects and hide new edges. And that's pretty good. Some weird falling behavior there, so just adjusting that down so it was about right. I'm going to copy and paste this extrude to get our number pad. What I'll do, I think, is just grab this guy and do a create outline and just scale him down just a hair, ever so slightly. Let me zoom in so I can do it a little more carefully. There we go. There's U and then I. No, I was going to do a select inverse, which is U and I, but actually I just need to delete what's already there. I get this number pad right where we need it. It's a little too deep, so I can push them in on the surface. And let's add a fillet. So that has some rounding. Not so bad. Not so bad indeed. I'm going to take this cube, make a copy of them, move the fillet, make it much more shallow. Just kind of hide them in the surface there, just because we want that tiny little reveal, a tiny little gap here. It looks like we have this other screen, which is actually, you can see by this shadow, it sort of sits behind. Also got this big rounding shape, so what's the best way to handle this? Making it complicated with this additional curve here. What I'll do, I might just make a whole backup version of this. Copied and pasted that boolean, so we got a separate version of that object. And what I'm going to do is I wanted some flexibility as I'm working with this guy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to turn the fillet off. I'm going to expand it. I'm going to, first, let's actually add our, and I'll do is I'll just copy them. I want to get another version of this bevel deformer, which keeps things flexible for me. So now we've got these rounded corners. Make it a little too large. Let's turn that down a click. Now that's all non-destructive. And then what I can do is bevel this. Let's see. Bevel. I'm hoping this behaves the right way. Okay, it's pretty good. Sort of what I wanted. What we want to do is actually subdivide it. Get a nice smooth curve. Now we're kind of eyeballing things here. Might be a little too large. Another subdivision. There we go. Not so bad. Let's grab this cube, sink it just a little deeper. Right now. We're having some errors here. Oops. Okay, that's not it. See, it's not loving this bevel that we've added. Maybe we just modify this form a little bit. Get it to behave a little better. Nope, like that. Don't like that either. Let's cut some loops in it. That might help. A lot of times it's about the amount of subdivisions you have in the object and how they're interacting. Shoot, that's not it. That's not doing it. Maybe if we add a few subdivisions to this guy, it'll help out. There we go. Beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful. I'm just going to keep that one subdivision there. And I'm going to say use angle here, so that way we're not adding subdivisions here. It's all about adjusting. All right, cool. So that seems to have sorted it out. I've got that nice second, that nice irregular curve on the bottom right corner. All right, looking good, looking good. What else? I think we need this other secondary screen inside of that. So I think that looks like it's just a regular old square. Right, does that look like a square? It does. Let's go with a square for now. I'm just going to do a different set of booleans here. So boolean. Boolean. There's our little screen. When I get into texturing, what I'll do is I'll make, oops, one, get the text message here. Turn my ringer off. Give this a little depth. So you can see that there is some depth here. And what I'll probably do is add a little bit of, I'll add a transparent material. What I can do is just make a copy of this guy outside. Maybe I'll even do that now, just so I don't forget. So, transparency, and little screen. There's a little screen. What do you think? Looking like a Game Boy? I think that's looking like a Game Boy. Actually, while we're at it, why don't we get into a little bit of texturing? So what's cool about Cinema, it's a fairly cool command, is I can go outside of the program. Oops. I believe that I can do this. I can grab this eyedropper and click here. Ah, it didn't work. It did something. Now, I've done this in the past. You have to build this. There we go. I'm going to pull that color right from that photo. That's the wrong boolean. Let's add it to this, which is the main body, and make another material. Let's grab this color. It's actually pretty close to our default material. Add it to the screen. Let's add another one. Bring this down. I'm going to get this wacky green color. And while we're at it, we'll do one more. Yeah, now we'll do a few more. There's this interesting kind of this pinkish red kind of color. Make sure I have the right one selected. Grab this black color. All right, I keep lying. I keep saying one more, but no, we're going to keep going after it. While I'm at it, let's grab this blue text color. Man, okay. We got a great start for texturing here. Ooh, Fu-an. I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean by that. I wish I could understand what you're saying. Love to answer your question. Okay. So these guys both get that color. Let's see. The screen I'm just going to copy backwards. Add green to it. Give fair the Game Boy. Now we're missing one more color, so let's make a new material for these start select guys. Kind of a warm gray there. And so that's this kind of dark black color. What do you think? That's looking like a Game Boy, yeah? Man, I wish I had a translation live on this chat right now. I'm getting a lot of, I believe, Chinese. Maybe it's a Chinese and a Japanese. I'm sorry, I can't read these kanji. Hello to you all. Alright, so it's never too late to learn, that's for sure. Start learning now. Thanks for the translation. Another thing I remember from my little Game Boy from back in the day is that it had a little bit of texture to it. So I'm going to add the tiniest little bit of a bump to this main body, this off-white kind of body material. So throw a noise on there. I think the scale like 5. Just lighten up this color even more probably. It's just going to be the tiniest little bump, and it looks like I could go smaller yet. Let's see what we're dealing with. These guys look a little too wide. Let's go in and kind of adjust some of these body proportions. Good. Good. Let's make it a little deeper. Now this transparent guy, we should add a little bit of reflection too. We should bring the transparency down just a hair and just a little bit of refraction. Just a little bit, and then this guy, I think what we should do is add a little bit of luminance to it, right? Because it's a screen, it's a glowing screen. Let's throw on ambient occlusion to lighten up these shadows a bit. Get some contact shadows going. See what we're dealing with. All right. Not bad. I think We got too much bump going on. We're going to turn that down. Looking pretty good overall. I think I do need to add these kind of reveals in there. Wondering how I should do that. Probably do it with some splines. Let's try that. My instinct is to just do some actual modeling to expand the shape, do some actual modeling there. But I think what I'll do is just use some splines inside of another boolean. So let's do this. Let's try this. Make this another object, current state's an object. Paste him out of that. And I'm going to make a selection, loop selection here. I'm going to say edge to spline. All I really wanted was that spline, so we can get rid of that copy we made there. And now I've got a spline that matches the size and shape of the Game Boy itself. So what I can do is make a sweep nerve out of that. Let's sweep it with a square. It's way too big at this point. We'll kind of shrink that down, itty bitty. And let's add the other little components there as well. I'll do that just by copying these. Since I know that the rounding is even here and here, I'm just going to position those by hand. But not before setting the first points in place cells again. All right. That's about right. Maybe this just come down a little bit. All right, Zinmin, can you translate that again? These are good comments. I like them. Just don't know what they mean. Can you guys understand me at all? I hope you can. Grab both of these, hit 0 on the position. Ooh, I would have thought that would have centered them. Let's try that. Let's try that. Let's try this. Okay, so now I know those are centered. Ah, cool. So you guys are chatting with each other. That's good. Where are you guys from? So I'm going to set up another boolean here. Getting sick of those tricks. All right, but what we're doing is we're going to do A union B, so stick them together, create a single object, hide new edges. We'll call this top reveal. And then I'm going to add that to our hierarchy here. I'm just going to break it at first. I just got to put it in the right place. Ah, hello to you in Singapore. Nice. See that? Pretty good, pretty good. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear you find it useful. New videos, usually every Tuesday. Doing it Wednesday today just because I had some travel. I was back home seeing my family, my wife's family. All right, that's looking like a Game Boy, yeah? I think we need to turn on evaluate transparency. because we weren't getting the brightness we need. A little better, a little better. Turn up the luminance on this bad boy. What I might do in a little bit is actually find a screenshot from an old video game that I like, put it in there. And we've also got this battery thing. We want to boolean that out as well. Screen. Battery low. That was the dreaded light to turn on. If you were in a long car trip and didn't have any batteries. I remember, man, my favorite game back in the day was Zelda. It was The Legend of Zelda for Game Boy. I remember long car trips with my parents, and I'd be in the back seat, just hitting the chicken with a sword until he fought back. I think what we want to do is add some of this text in. I wonder what the best way to do that is. I could go through and actually grab these graphics. Decisions. I also think my proportions are off on this guy. And part of that can be cured by making the size of the indentation, or the part that isn't there, a little bigger. The boolean here. So actually, why don't I just do a create outline, make it a little bit larger. By $2. Let's zoom in to finer control. Whoops. Also single that out. It's better. All right. Oops. Oops. So now create single object is a nice feature, but it doesn't allow you to apply your textures to individual components inside the boolean. So I'm going to turn that off. I think I can get away with it. I have to do the same thing here because I want to make it a little darker. I don't know if I'm going to get quite the shadowing that I want. What I can do is make this a little darker. Let's add some darkness to that corner. Turn off create single object. It's going to help it read a little bit better. So I have to figure out the way that I want to do these graphics. I might skip this graphic. I wonder how detailed and perfect we want to get. We're getting awfully close. This definitely looks like a Game Boy at this point. And I think I might just add them as text objects. And I'll just kind of pick a font. Maybe I can even make it say something besides Game Boy. But not a tracer, no graph. Anyone care to translate? So as to avoid any copyright infringement, let's just use a different name. Fun times. We have that blue color we can use, so that's nice. Oops. Now these are graphics. It's like ink, so it technically doesn't really have any depth. So I'm just going to try and get this really close to the surface. Let's pick a font that's close. We want kind of a... I'm not even going to worry about the Nintendo logo at this point. I'm just going to choose an italic font that makes sense. Couldn't sleep at night, saw your streams. I came to learn. I'm from Beijing. Awesome. Hello. Normally I'd say go to bed, get some sleep, but since you're watching me, I think it's okay. Let's see. Futura turned on. I'm just going to go Futura. Bold oblique. That's not so bad, right? It's pretty close. Not so bad. I should kind of like that. Yeah. It's funny, that little bit of text there really starts making it look like a Game Boy, isn't that right? Let's do A, B, start select. This font is kind of way off. Let's see if I have something that's close enough. I doubt I'm going to get the exact right font going here, but we'll get something that works. It's really not so bad. I just wish it was more condensed. So it works. That's not it. That's not it. This is a really exciting part of the stream where we're just choosing fonts, right? If I don't find something close enough soon, I'll probably just go with Futura, like the fake logo I put in there. And that's not too bad, actually. Maybe I can just make it a little bit wider with fill cap. Whoop. I'm going to make it much deeper, which I actually don't need, but then I'm going to shrink it down. Oh, hardly anything at all. So now it's basically this fillet has like basically no depth to it. Which gives me a little bit more boldness. Let's see what else we can do here. Object. I wish there was a crossbar on that B, on that A. It's kind of annoying. See if there's any alternates in there. Annoying. It's very close otherwise. That B is pretty darn close. That's so close. Let's just go with this boolean font. A little bit too large too, so let's shrink those guys down. And we should think about lighting this at some point soon too. Been a lot of building and modeling at this point, but not a ton of lighting yet. Got the play kid going. Let's add some start and select, and I think we should start lighting, getting to final rendering. Turn off caps for this one. No, just cap, not none. Oops. Oopsie. Try to match that angle. A little bit off. Now there's a lot of details on the back side that I could worry about modeling, but I think we're just going to stick with a frontal view here. I think this looks pretty darn good, actually. All right. How complicated is the back side? Is that it? That is not the original Game Boy. It's pretty close, though. There it is. Yeah, honestly, guys, I don't feel like getting into all that. I know we got that cool place where the game slots in. It would be cool to one day, model a little cartridge and make a little animation with the cartridge sliding in. That would be super fun. Ooh, look at this Star Wars game. That's pretty neat. I hadn't really had those. I do think what I want to do is add a little bit of those details to this button, though. So I'm going to throw him in a boolean. You guys getting sick of booleans yet today? And then use a sphere. Sort of knock out that little bit in the middle. That's a little bit of detail I do think we're going to miss from this frontal view. All right, that guy. Yeah. I just want to look at the image. There's these little ridges here that I think we can add. That's too small. We've got a dot, and it looks like we've got 3 little ridges. It should be fairly simple to add. So, we're going to use a couple cloners to make this happen. So let's get it down to approximately the right size. We can have a little bit of a fillet. We're not going to need much. Graph cloner. Space that way down. And let's go MoGraph cloner again. This time, we'll space it down and we'll go radial. 114. We'll turn the radius way down, and bam, look at that. Just trusting our instincts here. I'm like barely even looking. I feel pretty good about that. Aha. I think that might really give us the last little bit of detail we want. Play kid. All right, so let's start lighting this bad boy. I'm going to do something I do a lot, just add very simple psych to the background. All right. Let's throw a loft in, add these splines, bam, background. Well, nope, skipped a step. Let's grab these splines again. Make sure I have both of those selected. Throw a big old chamfer on it. Get that nice smooth edge. What I do is also make it a bit higher. We need to make it a bit wider as well. So let's drag that guy out, drag this guy out, and just center it up. Beauty. Now, I think what we can also do to keep things simple, I'm going to add a sky object. I don't do this a ton, but it's a really great way to get a high quality, simple rendering rather simply. So let's go to our content browser. And luckily I already had this open, but inside Prime and HDRi, there's a bunch of really solid HDRi presets. Let's try it. I can just double click this to add it to the scene. I'm going to throw that on the sky object. We'll turn off the loft just to see what kind of orientation we have on this. I actually have the right orientation. As you can see from this HDRi, you can see it's it is a photo studio. It's got a cyc in there already with a bunch of soft boxes positioned around it. So I think this might work pretty well for our purposes. And of course, we also have to turn on GI if we want our sky object to do any lighting for us. So let's give that a shot. Oh, and we're floating. So let's move this cyc up a little bit. So we're not floating anymore. That's about right. It's kind of dark too. So let's solve that by going 2.2 on our gamma here. See if that makes a difference. We can always add additional lights to the scene. That helped a bit already. Not bad. We also need a nice material for the cyc. We'll do that. I'm going to make it a light blue material. And I'm going to add a little bit of reflectance in the form of a beckoning. Now let's go with GGC, turn that down, turn up the roughness a little bit. And it's going to add to our rendering time, but what it's also going to do is it's going to bounce some of that light around. I think it should give us a little bit more of a realistic rendering. So like we got too much reflection here, so I'm going to turn that down to like 4 or 5. Which is going to help. I may even add a little bit of luminance, say 10%. Now I think the last thing we should do is put a little graphic in on this Game Boy here. So I'm actually going to look for Legend of Zelda Game Boy screenshot. So we can find it. Ha, perfect. Now, I don't encourage people to go and steal images from the internet. That's typically illegal. This is done only for educational purposes, of course. Don't do this in commercial projects. So let's just go ahead and add that in. There we go. Also going to add that to the luminance channel. Add a camera too, because I want to take a closer look, but I don't want to lose this angle. There we go. We're losing a little bit of the screen. Let's just scale that down. Oh no, we're pretty darn close. Yep, that's right actually. Never mind. Let's see what that gets us. It might be too bright. As you'll recall, I don't think these screens were actually backlit, were they? No, they weren't. In fact, they made a little thing called the Game Boy Light, which was like this little light that was also battery operated and like came around the top and literally shone like a little it was like a reading lamp that would shine on the screen of your Game Boy, so you could so you could see the screen in the dark, which is funny because it was not backlit. Let's also go square format on this guy. And zoom in a little bit here. Get her centered up. And now that we're fully lit, I think we're losing the bump. So I'll bring a little bit of that back. I'm also going to add some subdivisions because I can see the rounding here, which I don't like. All right, we are getting there. You found your sword. I also think some of these materials need a little bit of reflection. Some more than others. So I'm going to go to reflectance, add GGC, turn that way down to like 10%. And then this material was shinier than the others. So let's grab it. Which one is it? I think it's this darker gray here. Yep, this guy. Shinier than the others. So let's go to, like, say 20% on that. And this guy needs more roughness. I guess this is, let's add more roughness to the body. And then actually, I'm looking at it, I think these two have too much reflection. So let's go down to 5. 15 for the roughness. Just a hint. Let's see how that looks. That roundness is looking better. I think that reflection helped too. See, just on that edge there. Possibly too much. Let's go down to 5 on the body. Yeah, we need to go down on this brown guy as well. 5. The roughness. Even 4, and let's lose the roughness, because actually, as I recall, these are pretty shiny buttons. Still think that's a little too much. Try again. But I'm glad we brought the bump up. You can definitely see the bumpiness here. And I might even, since we have that blue backdrop, it's adding some coolness. And what I really remember is this Game Boy was kind of a very light beige, off-white kind of color, kind of cream colored. Let's make sure we're getting that right. I'm changing the color of the reflection here just to push it back a little bit. I think if we have a color that matches the surface, I'm going to add a little bit more back in actually. That'll make it a little bit less obvious. It's definitely better for the select and start buttons. All right. That's too dark for this guy. Same here. I think I overdid it. I'm trying to find that happy medium. Getting close though. I wonder if I should add that stripe at the top of the screen area. And I'm going to do it. I'll add that last little bit of text. We'll do our final rendering. So. Let's say battery, right? Get the clear view of that. So this is just a simple pure white color. Actually, what I'm going to do is make a copy of the screen color, which is this, and just make it white. Got that. And we've also got one that says dot matrix with stereo sound. All caps, it is. Dot matrix with stereo sound, pretty cool. Looks like it's aligned to the edge of this screen. And then we've got some stripes, which I'm just going to recreate with the cube or two. Top one is red, bottom one is blue. Let's get that sorted out. Whoops. Blue. And copy that over. A little closer. All right, let's see what we got here. Not bad. Yeah, that little bit of detail up there really does make a big difference, doesn't it? It's kind of uneven. So if we can even that up, and then we'll do a final rendering. So, these need to be wider. These need to be narrower, I think. Yep. Pretty even. Actually, if we're looking here, that is pretty darn even. This guy isn't quite lined up, so we'll scoot him over there, kind of even him out. Center it in between these openings in the stripes. I think we're good. Let's do one more test rendering. What I actually might do as well is go to my global illumination, go up to 2.3. I just want the light to travel a little bit further. Glad we booled this out and dropped it back a little bit, because that depth here in the screen makes it look a lot more realistic. I think for our final rendering, let's go to, should we double it? What do you think? That'd be good. Actually, let's drop this down just a hair. That's better. All right. Heck yeah. The little reflection on the edge really helps you catch that bumpy surface. Very subtly bumpy surface, I think, is a big part of what makes the Game Boy look like the Game Boy, or the Play Kid in this instance. Those details look nice. You know, I thought we would wind up omitting a lot more details than we did, but it came together pretty quickly. Hard surface modeling sometimes is a little simpler than the organic stuff we do. Now, like I said earlier, if we wanted to get really exacting and specific, we could have brought in either an image of the Game Boy itself, or I could have found an image, dropped it into Illustrator, and really started tracing out the different components and gotten the spacing and alignment like dead on perfect. Hey, Forgotten Worlds, thank you very much. Hello to you. Appreciate you tuning in. Just about to wrap up here. Fun bit of nostalgic activity here. Some hard surface modeling, which isn't always the most common thing on this show. We do a lot of landscapes and characters and organic modeling, but it's fun to do some hard surface every once in a while. I've done an 80s skateboard in the past, which was fairly nostalgic for me, as is this Game Boy here. Spent many quality hours with mine. We didn't get to the back of it, but since we're just doing a head-on view of it, I think that's just fine. It would be fun to expand on this one day and model in, you know, some of the rear details, model in the little slot in the back where the game slides in, the little game cartridge slides in. It'd be nice to create a little animated GIF, maybe with the Game Boy rotating and the cartridge sliding in and stuff like that. You could have a lot of fun. But oftentimes these aren't, you know, super finished and polished portfolio piece illustrations. They're exercises. It's practice. It's about pushing the skills and getting a high volume of work in and having a little fun and sharing some information during the process as well. So appreciate everyone tuning in. Just about done with this rendering here. I'll say if you want to keep up with me and the work that I'm doing, hit me up on social media at DLGNCE. I'm most active on Instagram and here on YouTube, but follow me on Twitter and other places as well. My body of work and website can be found at diligence.studio. And if you want to continue watching practice videos like this, there's a new one pretty much every Tuesday. We were a little belated this week because I was traveling, but new videos just about every darn Tuesday. So give it a subscribe, give me a like or a thumbs up, and if you have any questions or comments or additional thoughts on what you'd like to see in future episodes of the practice, don't hesitate to leave a comment below. And until next week, this is Stuart saying goodbye. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.